Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Palestine Chronicle TV. This time we have not only one special guest, but a whole number of special guests. We are talking to the managers and the writers of We Are Not Numbers. We Are Not Numbers is an organization that is based, it's an international organization that works largely in the Gaza Strip. The idea behind the organization is to convey the voices of young writers, talents, journalists, bloggers to the rest of the world, to present a different take on Palestine and the Palestinian discourse. Currently, We Are Not Numbers are launching their annual fundraiser. They need our help and our support. It is so very important, especially now during this critical juncture in the history of the Palestinian discourse and the Palestinian struggle, to lend support to this organization. We are going to be talking to several members of the organization, and throughout this, I will be reminding you that there will be a link at the bottom or the top comment of this chat, where you can click and lend some support. Large or small donation can make a huge difference for this very, very important organization that provides critical work in the besieged Gaza Strip. So let us start. Let's see if we can bring in the head of the organization, or rather let's see if I'm getting this correctly, is the project manager of the Gaza branch of the organization, our friend and our comrade, Issam Udwan. Issam, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramzy, for hosting me. It's quite a pleasure to talk to you. It's really amazing to meet with those audience, to raise awareness about what's actually happening in Gaza Strip and to inform about the work and the activities of We Are Not Numbers. It is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Issam. Now, I know that we have a good number of wonderful and talented young writers, and we're going to try to give everyone the needed space to communicate his ideas and his role in the organization and the work, the very important work that you guys do in Gaza. But before that, if you could start telling us briefly, if you don't mind, about yourself, about the organization, and why the work of We Are Not Numbers is particularly important and now.
Yeah, of course. Basically, let me start with a little bit of introduction about We Are Not Numbers. So it's, as the name suggests, it's a project that tends to link between the youth from Gaza, mainly from Gaza, with international expertise in short stories writing, in journalistic writing, in narratives writing, anything that we can offer to them in order to raise awareness and amplify their voices that the media is not doing so. The work of We're Not Numbers is mainly considered and mainly focused on telling the untold stories behind numbers in the news, not telling the unfortunate stories of death and of loss, but also tell that the unseen parts of it, telling about the hope, the love, the singing, the talents, and so on. What we are trying to do is changing the familiar and the rigid image that is known about Gaza. Whenever the Westerners hear the word Gaza, the first things that come to their mind is barbaric people, terrorists, war, blood, rebels, and so on. The list goes on. But in We Are Not Numbers, we believe that we have so much other things that people are not aware of. We have talents, we have writers, we have novelists, we have poets, and we have so many potential that you guys don't know anything about. We are not trying to tell those stories to humanize our story only, but also to make ourselves and to make our stories remembered throughout this work. It is so crucial. I mean, our work is so crucial in raising awareness that what you're seeing about Gaza of war and blood and bombing each day is not the only face that is known about Gaza. We have so much more that we need to talk to you about, to show you. So the project of We Are Not Numbers started after the war of 2014, war in Gaza. We started in 2015, and so far we have produced more than 800 stories. We've done 30 short films. Some of them earned international awards because we broadcasted that in the US, in Canada, and Australia. We are trying our best to deliver a message that we are not numbers, and nobody is a number, not only the Palestinians.
This is incredible, Isam. I mean, the fact that the message is not just trying to counterbalance the prejudices of mainstream media, but it's also to the rest of us, myself included, that we shouldn't be thinking about Gaza, in terms of this number of people killed, this number of people wounded, and so forth. But we have to think that Gaza is a thriving, lively place with incredible people who are persisting in their sumud, in their steadfastness in every facet of life. And when you talk to Gazans, you don't just get the impression that they see themselves and identify themselves in terms of their relationship to the issue of victimhood. Israel bombed us or did not. If Israel bombed Gaza, we exist. If Israel did not bomb Gaza, we disappear off the map of world consciousness. What you are saying here, we exist every day, and this is the message we want to communicate. Now, introduce us to one of we have several lovely people waiting to be heard. Introduce us to one of them, and before we bring them on the show. So we have Asma, we have Khaled, we have Sumaya. Let's bring Asma in, and I'm a little bit prejudiced in favor of Asma because we just discovered that Asma is also a relative of mine. So it doesn't just indicate that Gaza is quite a small place, but also indicates that we are, no matter where we are in the world, we are essentially one single family. Asma, you need to unmute.
Okay.
Or maybe we
yes,
can.
I'm not muted. I'm here, yes. Can you hear me?
Oh. Yes, we can hear you, Asma. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm very good. If you could tell me, Asma, when did you join We Are Not Numbers? And why did you find it to be an organization that you wanted to be affiliated with?
Yes, sure. So I joined We Are Not Numbers in 2015. I was in my second year in the university. I was studying English literature, and I thought of one as a way to maybe better my skills in English language and to also find my way in writing. And I also wanted to communicate with other people around the world and tell them my stories. And that's why when I started writing with We Are Not Numbers, but then I was disconnected for some years, for like 2 years, because I was engaged in other trainings and courses in the university. But then I found out that We Are Not Numbers is the place where I belong. This is the place where I want to be in for like more time. So I came back to We Are Not Numbers, but not as a writer, not only as someone who can write a story for like one story for like 3 or 5 months. I wanted to contribute in a better way. So I started volunteering as a social media coordinator because I found out that the social media is what will really help us get to more people around the world and to tell our stories and promote them in the best way. Because we're producing more stories every day, but we're not communicating them and promoting them in the best way, then this is all in vain. So I started volunteering, and then they liked my work, and then they decided to hire me as a project manager when Ahmed Naouk, the former project manager, had to leave Gaza. And then I started working alone for some time because at that time WAN was just a bit small at that time. And then we started to really organize the team and bring more people like Isam and others to the team as staff members. And then we decided to also find a better way to recruit more writers. And that's how our
Just to give an idea to our viewers, Asma, regarding the number, how many people are you in Gaza that are kind of part of the main unit, the main functioning administrative unit of the organization?
Okay, so since We Are Not Numbers was established, we joined around 200 writers, but now we have 60 active ones, and we have 5 staff members.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. And I'm
Yes, some of
assuming
them
that
are
it's
around the world,
distributed
by the way.
throughout
Some
the
of them.
Gaza Strip as well.
Can you repeat that, please?
I'm assuming that they are distributed, these 60 writers, throughout the Gaza Strip from Beit Hanun to Rafah,
Yes, yes, exactly. We
representing
have
various, men, women, people of different ages and different backgrounds.
exactly, yes. So they are all youth, they are all young, but yes, we have different ages, we have different backgrounds. They live in different places around the strip, and most of them are actually outside the strip. They went for scholarships or they went to just find a living, and but they're still connected online and they're still writing.
Basically, we are not numbers is a family. This is not just an organization that gives a platform for young people to have their voices heard and get published in various media, but rather it's kind of, for the lack of better word, is kind of an intellectual clique where you have people from throughout Gaza over the years developing their own unified discourse. And if there is anything that is lacking in Palestine right now, is having that unity of discourse. I can't think of a better organization than We Are Not Numbers in terms of working diligently, slowly over the course of years to develop that kind of one unified Palestinian discourse and giving the youth the chance to be the ones who develop and carve that narrative and that discourse on their own. If you are joining us right now, please look below in the comment section at the We Are Not Numbers donation page and make a donation to this very, very important organization. If you truly care about the voice of the Palestinians, especially the youth in Gaza, you want to hear more of them in alternative and mainstream media, you want to support them and their scholarship, this is what we should all be doing right now. We need to support this organization. Asma, stay with us. I am going to bring another voice, and that is Khaled Dadar. Khaled, thank you very much for joining us. Can you hear me okay? I think the sound is
Yes, yes,
muted.
I'm here. I
If
just unmuted myself. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, no, no worries. Khaled, we've been talking to several members of the organization. We are not numbers, and there is always this emphasis on, I wanted to join to tell my story. Um, Tell us about your story. Why did you join We Are Not Numbers?
Okay.
What compelled you to do so in the first place?
Well, it's not about like just joining. It's about like having the mean to tell you the story. And I have a quite different understanding and perspective of stories because as we've been living in Gaza and the circumstances we've been surrounded by, the Israeli occupation, and since we've been children, we've faced a lot of situations and a lot of struggles that affected us psychologically more than physically on the ground. So we are like we're different people from the people around the world. So stories, we don't tell stories, rather stories tell us. So we're full of stories, like stories make us. And this is where we're trying to convey about the idea of we are not numbers, because we are literally not numbers. This is like the idea of the project. And this is like my own perspective of telling my story. It's not just about words, it's about my life.
Okay, Khaled, when did you join We Are Not Numbers?
I joined this year. We are not numbers like was a source of motivation and inspiration before the writers, before like Asma, like Assam. I've always been motivated by those great talents and how they use English, and they widen my horizon about English because English, like when were children, we thought of English like just as a prestigious language, and we want like to talk English, but it's more than that. We have to use it like for the best, for what is like beneficial for us to tell our stories. And I'm very glad that I joined We Are Not Numbers, like to amplify our voices to the rest of the world.
You know, Khaled, you kind of took this into a whole new dimension, really, and just raised so many questions. I mean, by suggesting that we are not storytellers, but stories tell us. I mean, that
Exactly.
really kind of gets me thinking a lot about you know the role that we find ourselves as intellectuals, young intellectuals coming from Gaza. I'm no longer a young intellectual from Gaza, but at one point I was, where you feel like there is this kind of duty that I need to tell our story, and but how do you kind of find the kind of common ground between the uniqueness of your own story as Khaled and the collective story of all of Gazans? Do you find yourself sometimes stereotyped that I must fulfill a duty of telling a collective story, even though it might not exactly represent me as an individual?
Oh, of course, of course. The root is the same, and just the perspectives, like let me say, the sub perspective is quite different from one another, and the way of thinking is just different. But the root is the same. We've been living and facing the same circumstances, and of course, I feel like I'm obliged like to tell a collective story, not just personal. And let me say that we don't have personal stories in the profound meaning. We have personal stories just because I'm Khaled and he's Assam and she's Asma. But we all like representing Gaza. We all representing the same story, the same root. This is like the issue.
Absolutely. Khaled, please stay with us. I'd like to raise a few other issues with you later on in the program. If we could, our producers could bring in Muhammad Rafiq to the show. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad. Okay, our producer needs to remember to unmute our guests. Okay, it seems that it's
Yeah,
actually Muhammad himself who needs to. Okay, very good.
yeah, this is Mahmoud. Yeah, I'm so sorry for this.
No worries. So, Muhammad, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, before you tell us why you joined We Are Not Numbers.
For sure. But I just would like to deliver my honor and greetings, my warm greetings for being hosted here by your doctor and this great um, group of people who are leading this issue and raise awareness about the Palestinian issue around the whole world. First time, Muhammad Rafiq Mahawish. I'm a teacher of English studies and article and story writer. Recently in the process of producing my fiction book, so an author to be. And recently I maybe have joined We Are Not Numbers organization since for half a year ago. So for 7 months right now. So I'm now like a fresh writer, joined by a journey and a trip that led me to this supporting great organization.
Yes. Where are you based in Gaza, Muhammad? And what is your educational background and your family background, if you don't mind sharing this with us?
Absolutely, yeah, no worries. I was born and raised on in the southern part of the Gaza Strip here in Palestine. My hometown is Jaffa. My family was like struck out of Jaffa in this tragedy of the Nakba strike 1948. Nowadays, I'm finishing my English degree studies in literature. My sister also studies English translation, so we are a family raised and born in English. So trying to deliver the message, we are convinced and promising to keep like voicing to the whole world as a Palestinian, and particularly as a Palestinian living in Gaza.
Right. And I'm just going to ask you about, you know, you've been writing stories, of course, for We Are Not Numbers or through the organization. What kind of reception has some of these stories achieved? And is it to your satisfaction? Do you feel Do you feel that, yes, this is exactly what the mission is all about, and we are getting the job done? Or do you feel there still needs to be some work to be done?
Firstly, like, since I joined We Are Not Numbers, I wanted my voice to be heard by the people. I want them to hear not only ordinary friends and the surrounding family of mine, but also the international community as I'm writing and addressing the whole world in general, not only the people around myself. So I was hearing a lot about the Palestinian mentioned in news about just only numbers, and it usually in terms of politics and numbers, specifically how many killed and injured, and or homeless and dependent on aid. So I wanted a platform that is that could deliver my truth and to adapt my voice and writing narrative by writing articles, stories, and personal experiences on our daily life in the Gaza Strip. So personally speaking, We Are Not Numbers is not just simply a platform through which Gazan youth and I can deliver my voice, but it's also a bold and idea, a righteous idea, let's say, and a guiding light to the Western and the foreign world, and it's like never gonna be extinguished. We Are Not Numbers, actually, since I joined it, made me realize how needed our voices are and how powerful our actions can be to humanity too. And I found the really fascinating and magnificent results when I started writing my stories with We Are Not Numbers. People started sharing them and responding with comments about my stories like, really, you got a nice and amazing style of narration and stories, and it really delivers something to the world, not only the Gazan and the Palestinian, but also the American, the English, the Australian, the audience, and to the bigger slide of audience I am addressing. And to us in We Are Not Numbers, we believe that a person with no land is a person with no identity. That's why we are keep writing, even in unprecedented time of fear and when our land appeared broken and sad. But we never abandoned our, let's say, commonalities. We never abandoned our sense of community. We never abandoned our home's keys. That's why we are, or we believe that nothing can destroy the voice of truth. And we are, as you have mentioned, Doctor, previously, that we launched our fundraising campaign just to erase and to raise the support of We Are Not Numbers organization internationally.
Thank you very much, and please stay with us, Muhammad. As beautifully said. I'm just going to bring Isam here back for 1 second. Isam, I just want to say before, I know that we need to talk to Sumaya before talking to the others as well. I just want to say that quite often I get asked, by people in the media, even friendly alternative media, where are the Palestinian voices? There's always as if we are so stunted intellectually that there are not enough Palestinians to communicate a strong message, especially when it comes from Gaza. So we have to kind of fill the gap. Someone speaking from London on behalf of Gaza, from Seattle, from Moscow, from South Africa, talking to you guys, it's really quite humbling. I mean, not just the English itself is brilliant, but the ideas that are communicated are so profound. Why do you feel that you are, why shouldn't you guys all be on the media, whether Al Jazeera, whether CNN, whether BBC? Why shouldn't these young, very, very talented voices that are speaking from real experience, you haven't learned this just from books, you have learned it from your everyday life in Gaza. Why do you feel like you are not getting the needed attention? And I know you are getting some attention, but really you should be dominating the Gaza narrative right now.
Yeah, of course. I would like to enforce the statement of Wendati Roy when she said that there is no such thing called as people voiceless, but people who are deliberately silenced. And We Are Not Numbers, we wrote this wisdom in our statement mission to clarify that we have not chosen to be voiceless, but the media and the world is determined to turn us into voiceless people. We have voice, we have stories in every house, in every person, in Gaza, in Palestine, in the Palestinian territories, in the occupied territories, in the diaspora. there are many stories of the Palestinians, not only in Gaza, but why Gaza? This is the simple question, because Gaza has been ignored for the past 14 years, ignored from the political background, ignored from the political situation, ignored from the political solutions. And with the 3 brutal wars launched in Gaza in 2008, 2012, 2014, hundreds of people died, thousands injured, and during the Great March of Return, we are trying to show that we are not voiceless, but the media chooses to ignore those voices because it's kind of it's part of the propaganda, it's part of the Israeli war machine, I would say media machine. So in We Are Not Numbers, we tend to focus on showing ourselves as we are not voiceless. We have stories of ourselves, and we carried on our shoulders the mission of telling other people's stories. And this is really depressing, because when it comes to me writing my story or writing other stories, I fall into depression for days or maybe weeks, because I feel the suffering of this person. We're not writing about them. We are feeling them. We are living their experience as it's a matter of ours, because we are sharing the same norms. We are sharing the same experiences. And when it happens to this, I don't really allow myself to fall in this depression, because I have a responsibility as my other colleagues in We Are Not Numbers. We're sharing our stories. We're sharing others' stories as a matter of responsibility, because we possess the key, the language, to perceive, to reach the perception of others, to raise awareness that we in Gaza Strip, we are not seeking death as the media is showing, because this is the first thing they see about Gaza. We're seeking life. We have talents. For example, in 2019, we have in 2018, we have established a project called Gaza Vision during the establishment of the Eurovision at a Palestinian village called the Sheikh Mounis. We tried to show that we are blocked, we are forbidden to participate in this international singing contest, because we're simply Palestinians. We tried to show talents from Gaza, because Gaza is considered like the darkest spot, the blackest spot of the Palestinian history that everybody is ignoring, even on a local dimension, that the political decisions are not taken in consideration and in relation to what actually happens in Gaza Strip. Throughout the work of We Are Not Numbers, we are, of course, shedding the light on what actually happens in Gaza, but we are also linking to the sufferings of the Palestinians in the Palestinian-occupied territories, in the West Bank, in the diaspora. We Are Not Numbers started, and once we started, I started with We Are Not Numbers in 2018. But I know the start of the project. We've never imagined that we would reach a capacity of being contacted by most of the international media outlets, TVs, newspapers, journals, and so on. So such reach is giving us, I would say, hope that our stories are heard, our voices are heard. So we pass this hope to others, to the youth from Gaza, that we are tending to join, to add more than 100 per year to train them on telling their stories, on telling other stories. This work is crucial as a matter of responsibility, as a matter of Palestinizing our narrative and fighting what the Israeli media war machine is doing on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this, Isam. Believe me, there are so many questions I would like to raise. Stay with us. I want to make sure that I give the chance for everyone to speak as well. I'm going to speak to Sumaya Abu Nada. Sumaya, if you could unmute yourself. Assalamu alaikum, Sumaya. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah, tamam. I'm fine. I'm very fine. How are you?
I'm well. Sumaya, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your connection to We Are Not Numbers. When did you join them and why?
Okay. It's Sumaya Abu Nada. I'm a student at Islamic University. I'm working in my thesis in literature translation. I used to be an English trainer for a long while, but now I'm working as a translator and writer with We Are Not Numbers, and also I work as a voiceover. I started with We Are Not Numbers maybe 5 months ago. I joined this great team, and I worked in several articles and stories about our situation here, and about previous experience in my life. And We Are Not Numbers allowed me to speak out, to make my voice heard by the world and the international world. So yeah.
Sumaya, I'm going to ask you to, and I hope I'm not making you feel uncomfortable about this, but about your story, your personal story. What part of that story did you feel like needed to be shared with the larger world? Why was it important? Something more personal and specific, if you don't mind.
Okay, I believe everyone in Gaza has lost somebody during the three previous wars on Gaza. And I want to share this pain with the other world. I lost my uncle in 2008. So, so I wanted I wanted from people to remember my uncle, because he is not number. He was a whole person with family and people who loved him, and his loss affected my life so much, and I kept saying why, like, he just left us, and I wanted to express my feelings, my pain for the whole world, to spot the light on his story.
And did you feel once you joined the organization and began writing about this, and I am sure other subjects, did you feel like there was solidarity within the organization itself, people who could actually relate to your story with their own stories as well?
Of course, the beautiful thing of this organization is it keeps encouraging us to speak, to write everything that's going on with us, to write about previous stories, about current feelings, about ambitious, about our imagination, about maybe our parallel world, and what do we want to be, and all things that it spots the light at the first place on us as a person, that a living person here, that we are not just a dot in the map. We are like a group. We are a community, not under occupation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this, Sumaya. Please stay with us. If we could talk to Asma. I know Asma has been kind of one of the founders of the organizations. She's been with them since 2015, correct? You must have seen, I mean, this is kind of a long enough period that you kind of seen the progress of the organization in terms of its the actual message of the organization, but also in terms of the outreach of the organization. Are you happy? Are you happy with this progress? Do you feel like you are going the right direction? What do you want the future to hold for We Are Not Numbers?
Okay, so sorry, I was unmuted. So I was saying that yes, of course, I am proud and glad that we got to this. And I believe the progress was at some point, it wasn't really quick as we wanted it to be, because we didn't get the funding that we needed to increase the awareness and increase the impact like we wanted. But as time passed, we were able to make, a bigger progress and a bigger impact on other people as we got to know more people around the world and made more, let's say stronger relations with people around the world. We also told our stories, and we made our voice to get we held it, or we helped more people to give or have a louder voice, so we can help them tell the help them tell their stories to others around the world. And that's how we got known and we got famous between international media, and then our impact got bigger and bigger. We are also happy that we were able through the years to implement some special projects. One big example is the Gaza Vision contest. You all know, of course, about the Euro song contest. We made like let's say we confronted that. So we faced that with a Gazan contest in which we wanted to show how important it is to show our talents and how talented our youth can be. And then also we got bigger audience, and we also are trying all the time to get the best use of social media. So we're trying to get to more people around the world through social media. Also glad that more of our stories are getting translated to other languages, and we have all around the world people who really believe in our voice and believe in the importance of our voice. So they are doing their best to tell their friends about us or help us with donations, or at least tell their stories and follow us on social media and give us some positive energy in their comments and so on. So yes,
and just a reminder to those who are watching us right now, you can in fact support We Are Not Numbers by clicking on the donation button below. Please do so. It is very, very vital that that an organization like We Are Not Numbers to continue to spread its message, and it's something that I'm really kind of learning as of late, that it even goes beyond conveying the message of Gazans and the youth in Gaza in particular, but rather it's really helping at shaping a unified Palestinian discourse through the interaction that is happening with those young people throughout the Gaza Strip. Asma, do not
add something.
Yes, please.
So I just wanted to tell you that what you know now about Real Numbers is that we are trying to help our young Palestinians by giving them a platform in which they can share their stories and be themselves. But at the same time, there's a big progress behind the scenes, which is that we're trying our best to help them find a home. Most of us are just young youth who have never been in a situation in which they can find the options or the opportunities that they need to feel like real human beings. We are just being faced with all of that at once. We're facing every day the electricity crises, water, unemployment, the Israeli violations inside the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, and we're facing also nowadays by that disappointment from our brothers in the Arab countries and all of that. So to us, the young generation, we can just cope with all of that, and we feel like sometimes we feel like we are the most we're being faced with all of this injustice, and we just can't find a way to get out of all of this. And sometimes you would feel like you are just filled with negative energy because of all of that. And that's when the importance of Real Numbers comes. It's like a therapy to all of us. Sometimes I just wake up and start to think of a reason to stand up, and I can't find any until I start thinking about my work and Real Numbers, and the fact that I can go there to my workplace and meet such amazing young people who are dreaming about a better future and doing their best to dig in and find the opportunities that they deserve. So with all these, let me say, the internal activities that we do inside the office, the movie clubs, reading clubs, the circles, all these activities that we do inside the office, although they They cost so much, and we need to pay so much for the operational costs throughout the year, rent, electricity, Wi-Fi, refreshments, and all of that. It costs a lot, but to us, the bigger result is so much important to us, that we are helping young youth to find a home and a place where they can just be themselves and find a source for their therapy.
Thank you very much, Asma. Beautifully said, one of the photos that our producer placed in the background is that of Noor Ariqat. In a screen in the background. Yes, that's the photo, and a number of We Are Not Numbers members were, kind of standing there and smiling. I want to ask Issam about this rather quickly. Your Issam, yes, if you could unmute kindly. Lovely. So basically, I mean, the organization is not just, and we've heard a lot of amazing things, but it's not just a thing that is happening in Gaza. There's an international dimension to it as well. And there are people who are supporting you from outside, who are actively engaged as mentors and as supporters. Tell me about the kind of mentors that help We Are Not Numbers, and how does this relationship work exactly?
Yeah, of course. Since the establishment of We Are Not Numbers, we opened the chance for volunteering mentors to join our program, and they are not necessarily experienced in short stories writing. They might be poets or producers or anything that could help or lead or mentor those youth to find their passion in writing and other, specialties. We have been doing the work in writing short stories and writing, for example, one of the projects that we have started, but until now we did not finish because we did not find a publishing house to work with, is the project related to the Great March of Return. So as simple as this, we wanted to write stories of life and death from Gaza's Great March of Return. So this project, we focused on writing stories about our experience during the participation and, about others' stories. So we wanted to show that there are other things that you guys don't know anything about: the cooking, the playing of football, the clowns going to the march. So those scenes were not shown on the media. So throughout the mentorship program, we try to bring writers, theater writers, short stories writers, journalistic writers. We wanted also to show another dimension of experience, such as the international law, the picture that you've seen of Noor Ariqat. We tried to bring UN rapporteur. We tried also to bring theaters writing from the UK. We are trying to, within our scope, to diversity of writing styles. This will enable us to understand what actually is attractive to the worldwide audience, and also to give us the potential of understanding that writing is not a symbol of writing sentences, but you need to go beyond those mere words and sentences you're writing. You need to understand that there is a culture you need to sustain. There's an understanding of the mentality of the reader. You need to understand before you initiate your writing process. So those mentors, they're not actually mentors, they are part of the family. And this is the thing that we are mostly proud of, that we have established a family atmosphere between, the administrative team, the mentorship team, and the writers as well. We relate to each other, we depend on each other. Whenever we feel depressed, and this is one of the main things, one of the main struggles of our writing process is whenever we feel depressed, we go to the mentor to talk to them. As a matter of friends, as a matter of family members, we go to each other as the administrative team to talk to each other. All those, because we're talking about a diversity and experienced youth. They have different experiences. I know they have the same suffering, but they have absolutely different experiences in writing, different experiences of life struggles. So it's really hard on us to manage all those, as well as to be members, because in the first place, we're not just admins, we're not just administrators of the program, of the project, but we are also writing, and we encourage ourselves to write on a periodical basis. Like one of the laws that we have in We Are Not Numbers is we should write a story each 2 months at least, because this is a matter of responsibility. We are taking it above our shoulders, as we are trying to teach those writers that it is their responsibility as well, because at some point Isam will leave the project, Asma will leave the project, and the generations should go on. It's a responsibility for all of us, and we need to be responsible over this.
So just a technical question for you, Isam. For mentors, I mean, do you reach out to mentors, or do they like there is a page? I know that we have shared something right now. I think we are not numbers. Yes, we are not numbers.org/home/mentors. Do you actually go there and say, I would like to help out as a mentor, or is this a selection process that takes place at the level of the organization itself?
Yeah, the typical process is that if there is a button on our website for mentors to apply to us, sending their CVs, their bios, and their experience in writing in any writing field, and we decide as a team. I mean, we have a coordinator for the mentorship program, and she decides whether this mentor can be included in our list or not. But lately, we have been developing this strategy in order to bring also. I would say Palestinian potential in writing, like Noor Ariqat, like Yara Hawari, like Maryam al-Barghouti, and so on. We are trying to, it is important to connect with Western expertise, but it's also important to bring Palestinian expertise in writing. So the process is, as I told you, is divided into 2 steps. We might accept them throughout the website, and the other step is whenever we find insufficiency of the number of writers, because we have large number of writers and we need large number of mentors, we go to propose this to whoever we know who has or she has an experience in writing.
Excellent. And I will ask you another technical question, but in a bit. I need to bring Khaled Dadir here, because Khaled really kind of impressed me with his take on the whole thing, and there's this kind of philosophical aspect to that work. And I kind of, since your earlier comments, Khaled, I wanted to bring the issue of as Palestinians, intellectuals, young and old, we are always caught in this position where we have to present our discourse in a specific way, knowing of the type of propaganda that the Israeli the Israeli government conveys and their supporters about Palestine. We are caught in this situation where we are constantly having to humanize ourselves, having to define ourselves, in negation to the image that the media has about us. So this idea that we are not terrorists, we are not violent, we are not this, we are not this. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of an intellectual entrapment, because it imposes on us or dictate on us the type of narrative that we are supposed to present to the rest of the world. But this is quite stifling, isn't it? How do you deal with this as an intellectual and as a writer? How do you present your priorities based on this idea that the need is for your priorities to follow this particular paradigm? Where are you in the story, basically?
Okay, well, I couldn't agree more, but you said we wanted to present our stories in negation of the so-called terrorist idea about Palestinians. But I don't think of it that way, because the people on the right track and the people who represent themselves truly don't make so much effort to be themselves, because they are presenting the truth. They don't have to fabricate or doctor anything. So our mission is difficult regarding the means. It's difficult regarding the occupation. It's difficult regarding the number of hearers to our stories. It's not difficult regarding how we tell our stories, because we don't have to make much effort telling our stories, because stories tell us. We're not the people who tell the story. We just need the mean. We just need the people who will willingly hear us, who will willingly to change the so-called terrorist idea about Palestinians. We're not about to fabricate our ideas because we are on the right track. We are the oppressed, we are the occupied people. We don't have to fabricate things. We don't have to make much more effort, like as you said, to make the image true. We just need the people who are willingly to hear us, the people who will support and give us the chance to talk. We just need the chance to talk.
So basically, just by getting or being given that chance, and just conveying your reality the way it is, stereotypes are going to collapse on their own. The truth will be revealed on its own without us having in
Of
you know
course.
kind of create this construct of a discourse that is designed specifically to appeal to people's sensibilities and stereotypes. Thank you for that, Khaled. I want to ask uh, Muhammad Rafiq if he's still with us.
Yeah, with you,
Yes.
doctor.
Yeah, Muhammad, I wanted to ask you about the politics of it all. I mean, sadly, in Palestine, just to give you a very quick example, a large newspaper here in the United States asked me to write a story about the March of Return in Gaza, and
Yeah.
I did, and they rejected it, not once, over 10 times, because they insisted that I tell the story through Hamas and Fatah rivalry, and I didn't want to. I wanted to present the story through the people who are there, marching, protesting, holding their weekly vigils week in and week out, and they would not accept it. They wanted to push me into this corner that I have to present Palestinians as factional. They have no unified political discourse whatsoever. Now, in the and of course, at the end of the day, I rejected to work with them anymore, and it never happened. But in the case of we are not numbers, do you feel that there is a political component? Are you under any kind of, is there an editorial agenda? Or do you feel like, regardless, we could be people who have different political ideas? We could belong, if we wanted, to any political faction or adhere to any ideology and still convey a unified Palestinian discourse? Or do you feel that in order for you to be a member of the organization, you kind of have to accept certain political ideals and values? And if I'm, excuse me if I'm being too upfront about it, but it is
Okay.
our,
Yeah. No problem.
as Palestinians, is there politics behind all of this?
Let's say that the fact that being a writer internationally and submit your essays and articles to international organizations, magazines, and newspapers, such as, for example, the ones you have mentioned previously, Dr. Washington Post, New York Times, and those ones alike, they have their particular conditions in terms of policies that the writer should commit to in terms of their quality and their publications. But being a writer with We Are Not Numbers doesn't necessarily encourage you to have one particular political color, let's say. So whether you're belonging to this side or that side, you are welcomed as a writer of the Palestinian Initiative and a writer of the Palestinian cause to deliver the true image for the whole world, the image that has been misportrayed, because that's how the media has been portraying people who look like us, who is holding the Palestinian nationalities holders. But the writers with We Are Not Numbers don't have actually that the race of being, for example, considered under that political, let's say, regime, or that political let's say government or group of imposing people. That's why you feel very free when it comes to publishing or your perspectives to the colleagues, to the fellow writers, to linking and attaching your CVs and careers with ones who have, let's say, a good and a wide standard of experience and experiences around the whole world. because I always tell my colleagues in We Are Not Numbers that in Gaza here, writing is political and political is writing. That's why you have to be very observing when it comes to delivering an idea that is related to one political group, whether let's say the people of Hamas or Fatah. So, but it doesn't actually focus on the people who like, let's say, impose authority on the strip, but the people who are under this authority, the people who have laughter, a lot of hardship, and a lot of, let's say, celebrations to celebrate at the same time. There are not people under the occupation as well. It's not necessarily to be under 2 or 3 or many kinds of political regimes at the same time, but you are being oppressed and you are being spared out of your homeland. So that's why you have, and to carry on one unified and one united message as a group of 60 or 50 writers of We Are Not Numbers.
Absolutely, and this is really needed today more than ever before. This unity that happens at the, not just at the streets level, but at the intellectual level, because you guys are the people who are conveying the aspirations and the hopes and the dreams and the political values and of the Palestinians. So that unity is absolutely essential to start with your own unit before it spreads elsewhere. I want to ask Issam, the project manager of We're Not Numbers, about do you Issam work with West Bank writers? I mean, we're talking about unity here and kind of expanding the unity of the Palestinian discourse. Is there a connection? Is there a rapport between you and West Bank writers and young intellectuals as well? I think you need to unmute Issam.
Okay, first, sorry for the shaky internet. It's one of the complexities that we're facing in Gaza. So regarding your questions, we have started since years, started to think that we need to establish a youth platform for writers from the West Bank, Nablus, Khalil, anywhere in the Palestinian territories and into Palestinian occupied territories.
Sorry, let me interrupt you just to not to be misunderstood. I meant not just the West Bank, but Palestine 48 and other Palestinian polities and groups, even in South Lebanon, in Syria, because overall our story is really essentially one and the same. Go ahead. Sorry for that.
Yeah, of course. It's every story matters. Every story of a Palestinian matters, whether he or she is in Gaza, in the West Bank, in the occupied territories, and the diaspora. We are trying to show the bigger perspective of the Palestinian struggle. That it's not merely a Palestinian versus an Israeli. It's a human being versus an apartheid regime that is found in Palestine, in the occupied Palestine, and in the diaspora as well. And this is an example because We Are Not Numbers opened the chance for me to be selected by the Carter Center to participate as the first international elections observer. I was part of a diplomatic delegation. And when I tried to travel through Eretz, they denied me. When I tried to travel through Egypt, they humiliated me. For a trip that takes around 12 hours from the Rafah borders to the Cairo airport, it takes 12 hours. I spent 4 days, passed through 30 to 40 checkpoints. So the dehumanization of the Palestinians is not happening by the Israelis, alone, but it happens on a global perspective. We are trying to show that for the Palestinians and the diaspora, for the Palestinians and the refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. So giving such, I would say, within scope dimension of the Palestinian suffering enables the Westerns to understand that it's not merely about Israel. It's not merely about the checkpoints in the West Bank. It's not merely about the siege that is imposed on Gaza for the past 14 years. It's more than that. It's a war on humanity. It's a war on the human beings. They want to live in peace. And this is one of the manipulative discussions that I'm always having. People say that, okay, you are shooting rockets on Israel. So why you're blaming the result? You're not blaming the anchor of the issue, which is the occupation, which is the dehumanization, which is the intentional policy of suffocation that Gaza Strip has been living so far, with intentional policy to suffocate, the medical strength in Gaza, the economic, which it consists of, 2/3 of the population My generation, the 19th generation, we have beautiful master's degrees, but we don't have jobs to work.
Mm.
So the older generation, they barely can feed their children. Diseases other than the COVID-19 I would say, are spread in Gaza Strip with absolutely no medical potential to fight it. The water, Gaza is announced, several years ago, Gaza was announced to be unlivable by 2020. Here we are in 2020. So why you are blaming the screams of the occupied people, but shooting rockets or screaming or crying out loud, but you're not blaming the reason behind this? So throughout this work of We Are Not Numbers and other works, that not only we are talking about the Palestinian issue, we're talking about the Black Lives Matter, for example. We're talking about the Syrian issue. We're talking about the dehumanization everywhere, just to tell that the issue and our message is not about Palestine and Israel. It's about human being versus an apartheid regime. If it's not happening in Palestine, it's happening elsewhere. So we're trying to defend that we want justice, we want peace, we want equality for everybody, not just the Palestinians.
I'm glad that you mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement, Isam, because I wanted to ask you about, is there an actual connection between you and people within the Black Lives Matter movement, within other movements outside the United States that kind of work for similar causes, for justice for their own people as well? What type of coordination exists? If you could be brief, please.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to link between the Palestinian struggle and Palestinian injustice with others. We have attempted to contact Angela Davis several times. I tried with Noor Ariqat to bring, a more within perspective of the political dimension, what's going on around the world. We have been in contact with the journalists to talk about the Kashmiri experience, what actually happens there. But unfortunately, because of the limited resources we have of contacts, because of the limited resources, I mean financial resources, to establish all those contacts, to establish projects, because it's not about a webinar. It's not about just bringing them to talk about their experience, about their injustice, but I would say linking, establishing real connections, real projects, books written, narratives told, to link the Palestinian issue with others. And this is not easy to be done. We are trying to do this with Jadaliya. We are trying to do this with the Mundaways. We are trying to do this with anybody who has the potential of raising awareness about the Palestinian issue, as well as linking it with others' struggle, to say that we refuse the dehumanization wherever it happens.
Absolutely.
So Black Lives Matter, we have attempted to do this, because I want to answer your questions in specific. I have attempted to contact many speakers about the Black Lives Matter. We showed even our recent project, special project that we did, is the mural of George Floyd in Gaza Strip. We portrayed and we showed the solidarity that we Palestinians refuse to dehumanize any human being around the world. We are fully supportive of a Black Lives Matter because they are the same as our struggle.
Absolutely. Just a quick suggestion. I think you should perhaps be reaching out more to the youth of within the Black Lives Matter movement, within the Kashmir movement, the Rohingya, and other parts of the world, because they can also relate to you at a more personal level. And I think it kind of helps. What you're basically saying, we're not looking for superficial solidarity. We're looking for actually building a foundation for an actual discourse that is going to be protracted and will have political value in the future once it's cemented based on a strong foundation. I would like to just bring everyone on the screen to thank everyone so very much for your wonderful contributions to this program, but also to your wonderful work that you do through We Are Not Numbers. Personally, when I first heard about the organization, it was for me like it was a Vala moment. Should have happened a long time ago. And I am so happy that you are persisting and you are still going strong and you are building an actual generation of young intellectuals. Some of you may move on, come back, but you are still there, helping unify the Palestinian discourse in Gaza and elsewhere. And of course, if you are listening to us, we are calling on you to please show support and solidarity with the organization through donating directly. There are links below in the comment section on how to donate and how to support this very, very important organization that is making a world of a difference. Isam, just one last word to our viewers on why they should and they must support We Are Not Numbers.
Because as I said before, because every story matters. It's not about We Are Not Numbers. It's about youth voices. We have been living this for our whole lives. It is important to amplify our voices. Why? It is a simple question. Your question is answered with a simple question. Why you hear about us, but you are not hearing from us? Because it is our struggle. It is our issue. It is our pains. So hearing from us, you are just hearing the truth. You are hearing our pains. You are hearing our hopes. You are hearing our dreams. So this is really important, because defending We Are Not Numbers, or defending the Palestinians in general, does not really require understanding of the whole historical and political background. That's what I'm always saying to the audience listening to me. It demands great sense of humanity. It demands a great sense of solidarity. And this is simple. You don't need to work hard to study this, to study the history of Palestine. You don't need to work hard to study the Zionism movement in Palestine in 1948, but you need to have the sense of humanity to see and to hear, because people are not voiceless.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, Isam. Thank you so very much to you, to Asma, to Sumaya, to Muhammad, and we lost Khaled. He had beautiful additions and contributions to say. And of course, I know that you already know, but I would like to reiterate that. The Palestine Chronicle support you 100%, all of your efforts. We are very, very proud of you, and we will continue to do so for coming months and years as well. To our readers, please make a donation to We Are Not Numbers. Share this webinar, make a comment, show your support in any way you can. And I promise you, we are going to be hearing back from these beautiful, talented people from Gaza, sharing their stories and aspirations with us. And of course, people in the media, these are the true spokespeople for the people of Gaza. You don't hear a factional message here. What you hear is the truth and the reality of the situation in Gaza as it affects them personally and directly. Thank you so very much for all of you. And I would like to say goodbye, stay safe. And we are going to be in touch again soon, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Yeah, the pleasure is ours. Thank you so much.
Just very quickly, I'd like to bring our co-editor, our managing editor of the Palestine Chronicle, Romana, who's usually with me on this program. Just today, there was just way too many windows, so we couldn't really fit another window, unfortunately. Just your take on this very quickly, Romana.
My take is, of course, these days we are reporting, from Washington and the Abraham Accord and all these things, how far all of this is from the people of Gaza, from the youth of Gaza, from their energy, their, lust for life, and, their skills. I'm always impressed, because average people in the West cannot be compared to their ability to convey stories and their enthusiasm. So I think, we always do a good job when we focus on these, speaking about Palestine, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the point you raised about this kind of two parallel realities. Some people selling out Palestine. Palestine is not theirs to sell anyway. In Washington, well, you have an entirely different reality taking shape in Gaza and in throughout Palestine. And this is where the true story is. Peace is not being made in Washington, D.C. At best, this is a weapons deal or some political and strategic realignment for some Arab countries. Has zero to do with Palestine. Palestine is these young people and their stories and their struggle and their resistance. We are very, very proud of them. Thank you very much, Romana, for your addition and for being the producer behind all of this. Just our readers who do not know, it was Romana who did all the wonderful production in the background. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. I believe we have with us the one and only Professor Richard Falk. So this is something we are very, very excited about. Tell me.
With a slight change in the calendar, it will not be on Wednesday, it will be on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, we are gonna host Professor Richard Falk.
Absolutely, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So please mark this on your calendar. Professor Falk will have lots of important things to say, and we are going to be touching on the recent issues of the normalization with Israel, how this fits into international law. So it's going to be something that you really, really need to tune in and to watch. Thank you very much for all of your support. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Oops. Assalamu alaikum.